Right now, somewhere in this world, a person is sitting alone in a room. They have food. They have water. They are completely safe. And their brain is doing the same thing it does when someone punches them in the face? Not a metaphor. Not poetic language. The same neural circuits. The same regions. The same signal firing through the same. For most of human history, being alone meant you were about to die. And your brain never forgot that. What loneliness actually does to a human being is one of the most disturbing things neuroscience has uncovered in the last 30 years. And almost none of it works the way you think. Let's start with the pain. In 2003, a neuroscientist named Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA ran a simple experiment. She put volunteers inside an fMRI scanner and had them play a virtual ball tossing game with what they believed were two other players. Partway through, the other players stopped throwing the ball to them. They were excluded, left out of the game. The scans showed activation in the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that processes physical pain. Being left out of a game that meant nothing, with strangers they'd never meet, registered in the brain as damage. Eisenberger called it social pain. And it wasn't a weak signal. In some participants, the response was indistinguishable from physical injury. Think about what that means. Our brain does not distinguish between a broken bone and a broken connection. It processes both through the same machinery. It demands the same response. And that alarm did not evolve by accident. For almost the entire span of human existence, separation from the group was a death sentence. If you were cast out, you didn't survive the week. No shelter, no shared fire, no one to watch your back while you slept. The brain learned this. Over hundreds of thousands of years, it built a system specifically designed to make isolation unbearable. Not uncomfortable, unbearable.
Because the only humans who survived being alone were the ones who were desperate enough to find their way back.
The ones who could tolerate it died alone.
The ones who couldn't, they're your ancestors.
Which means the loneliness you feel isn't a flaw in your design. It's the design working exactly as intended. You were built to need people the way you were built to need water. Not as a preference, as a biological requirement. But here's what makes this stranger. Your brain doesn't just feel loneliness like pain. It responds to loneliness like a threat. John Cacioppo spent 20 years at the University of Chicago studying what happens to a body that stays lonely. Not someone sad for a weekend. Chronically isolated. Consistently, without meaningful connection. What he found reads like a list of things that happen to an animal being hunted. Cortisol floods the system. The stress hormone that prepares the body for immediate physical danger. Blood pressure climbs and stays elevated. The immune system shifts, less energy toward fighting viruses, more toward healing wounds. Because an isolated human, evolutionarily speaking, was not a human at risk of catching a cold. It was a human at risk of being attacked. The inflammatory response activates. The same response your body uses to seal a wound.
Except there is no wound.
The body is preparing for damage that hasn't happened yet.
Cacioppo found that lonely people enter a state of hypervigilance.
Their brains scan the environment constantly for threats. They interpret neutral faces as hostile. They read ambiguous social signals as rejections.
They remember negative interactions more vividly than positive ones.
They become, without realizing it, increasingly difficult to be around. They become, without realizing it, increasingly difficult to be around, which makes the loneliness worse.
Which triggers more hypervigilance.
Cacioppo called it a loneliness loop.
The condition feeds itself. And the longer it runs, the harder it becomes to interrupt from the outside. But here's the part that stops most people cold. None of this requires actually being alone. In 2010, Cacioppo published data showing that loneliness had almost nothing to do with how many people surrounded you.
He found lonely people inside marriages,
inside crowded offices, inside cities of millions.
He found deeply connected people living entirely on their own in the middle of nowhere.
The brain doesn't count bodies in the room. It measures something else entirely. Whether the connections around you feel real. Whether the people near you actually see you. Whether you could tell the truth about your life to someone in that room and have them still choose to stay. If the answer is no, the alarm fires. For 300,000 years, humans survived in groups of roughly 25 to 150 people. Everyone in that group knew you. Modern life dissolved that architecture almost completely. And the brain never got the update. The brain is screaming that you are separated from the group. The brain is screaming that you are going to die. And there is no predator to run from. He called it felt security. Even one relationship with that quality was enough to interrupt the entire cascade. The world changed. The brain didn't.
And we haven't figured out yet how to fill it back in.